Welcome back, Defenders. Jake here. Here are today's numbers from Ukraine's Ministry of Defense, but I want to share with you yesterday's post. And this was their quote of the day on Twitter. Cowards die many times before their deaths. The valiant never taste death but once. This is a famous quote from the play Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare. And I'm pretty confident that Ukraine's Ministry of Defense was referring to this hero. Over the last 2 days, a video has gone viral of the Russians killing an unarmed prisoner of war. And the Russians decided to do this. They could have held on to this man and traded him for a Russian prisoner of war to save one of their own comrades. But two, they decided to film it because they wanted to kill this unarmed man. And then third, they decided to release it on social media, proud of what they did. This man died standing, and his final words were, "Glory to Ukraine." This was right before he was shot with dozens of bullets. And the video does exist on Twitter, unpixelated. It's only 11 seconds. I debated whether or not I would watch it myself, whether or not I would tell you guys that it existed. But I think it's important that Russian war crimes be exposed so that everyone in the world knows exactly who the Russians are. They're cowards, dying many deaths, but true heroes like this man, they only die once. So if you want to watch the video for yourself, I'll put it in the pinned comment down below, but obviously I'm giving you fair warning. It's hard to even think about. Ukrainians are in shock over this prisoner of war execution video, and Kyiv vows revenge. Now, the Ukrainian military has said that they've tentatively identified the slain soldier. Unfortunately, I think there might be a mistake or some confusion. So initially, the MOD identified him as Timothy Shadura. Yes, these two men kind of sort of look alike. But more than likely, I think it's actually this man, Alexander Matsievsky. You can tell from the injury on his forehead that potentially this is the man. Whether the man who said "Glory to Ukraine" before being killed was Timothy or Alexander, it's important to just remember that both of these men are heroes. Both of these men gave their lives defending their country from an invading force, and justice will be served. The Russians, if they're not already dead, the Russians who killed this unarmed prisoner of war, they will be found and they will be held accountable. In the meantime, the world is trying to remember and commemorate this fallen soldier. There's lots of really nice artwork that has appeared online, once again paying respects to this fallen hero. And this man, once again, died on his feet, standing for his country. His final words were, "Glory to Ukraine." And if you're one of these people who says this is just war, let me read you this tweet. If you watch this and think, well, war is brutal, this happens on both sides, just remember that this guy was standing on his own soil. He didn't leave his country and go and invade a neighboring country. He was defending his home, and he was murdered while unarmed by an invading force. So no, it's not the same. Let me share with you Klitschko's video paying respects to this fallen soldier.
Russia is outdoing itself every day in horror. It does not respect any principle, any value. Russia has lost its soul. The images of this prisoner of war do not leave me anymore. He was murdered at close range by a machine gun for shouting "Slava Ukraini." I say glory to the hero who symbolizes the strength of Ukraine. His murder symbolized the Russian barbarism. Today, we're all like this Ukrainian hero. We're all brave fighters of freedom. These unbearable images are added to the images of Bucha in the Library of Horrors. These images underline the immorality of Russia and the evil. These images also underline the rightness of our cause. They sharpen our will to fight. These images are a shame. These images are also proof of war crime. Another one. Russia will have to be accountable for humanity, since it is attacking the dignity of humanity. After the barbarism will come the justice. For this hero, for Bucha, for Ukraine, for humanity. Glory to Ukraine. Slava Ukraini.
Glory to the heroes. And I want to tell you guys a tale of two cities. When Russia initially invaded Ukraine, they simply attacked from every direction, approaching the major cities, anticipating that they would all surrender. That was their hope, that Ukraine's military would stand down and roll over, not resist them. So for these two Ukrainian cities, Mariupol and Kherson, prior to the war, they had comparable populations. Mariupol being over 400,000, Kherson being close to 300,000. And for the city of Mariupol, they decided to resist the Russian invasion, and Russia's response was to just indiscriminately bombard the city. It's estimated that 95% of the buildings in Mariupol were either damaged or completely destroyed, and tens of thousands of civilians potentially were killed in this assault. Russia has not disclosed any figures. They won't let outside observers come into the city. We'll never know what the true death toll of Ukrainian citizens were in this city, as Russia quickly encircled it and then just kept unloading everything they had on these civilian buildings. So the death toll has to be in the tens of thousands. Once this city is liberated, we might get a close approximation. So Mariupol chose to resist, and everyone was killed and everything was destroyed. So Kherson did what the Russians exactly wanted. They stood down, they surrendered the city. Were they treated? Much better. And from all accounts from Ukrainians after the city was liberated, the occupation of Kherson was hell on earth. This comes from first-hand accounts of survivors. And this report is from this week. At least 20 torture centers in Kherson have been discovered we can now prove it, they were directly organized and financed by the Kremlin. So around the clock, Ukrainian civilians trapped in this city were beaten, they were raped, tortured, brutalized, robbed. It was a living nightmare for the 8 months or so that they lived under occupation. And the worst crime that Russia potentially might be guilty of, and they're guilty of a lot, is that they keep stealing Ukrainian children. These are not orphans. These are children who have parents or grandparents that they could be returned to. But Russia has gone into the country of Ukraine with a deliberate plan of stealing their children. So here is a report from the Conflict Observatory researchers in partnership with Yale's Humanitarian Research Lab, and they've discovered evidence of a network of 43 camps and facilities where Russian authorities are holding, they list 6,000, but I think it's tens of thousands of Ukrainian children. These children are being tortured, they're being re-educated to believe they're Russian, and then they're being redistributed across Siberia. They're being given to Russian families in the middle of nowhere to strand them inside of Russia. So why is Russia doing this? And Russia is doing this because they're an aging, dying society where the Russian ethnicity, you can see from this estimate of their population going forward, it's just dying out. So this land grab in Ukraine was always also a people grab. The goal was always to steal the children of Ukraine, Russify them, make them loyal to Putin and the Russian Empire, and then use them in future wars to expand into the Baltics, expand into the Caucasus, expand into Finland and Poland. Putin is all in on reconstituting the Soviet or Russian Empire to their maximum borders. these wars will never end if Ukraine loses this fight. So coming back to A Tale of Two Cities, you can either resist the Russians and everything is destroyed and everyone is killed, or you can do what the Russians want and you'll be raped, tortured, robbed, and have your children stolen from you. Not great options. But thankfully, there were more than just these two cases. The city of Kharkiv resisted and survived. The city of Sumy resisted and survived. The city of Chernihiv was almost completely surrounded. They resisted and survived. The city of Kiev also resisted and survived. The moral of the story is, don't surrender to Russia. Don't let Russia take a square inch of territory, because we know what the Russians are and we know what the Russians are going to do. And here they are on Kremlin State TV, just talking about it, that we're already evil. Maybe we should go to the maximum level of evil of the Stalin era in order to get what we want, in order to reconstitute our empire. So here's Solovьев on State TV, just speaking the truth.
То возникает вопрос к нам. А когда мы начнем мстить безжалостно и беспощадно? Когда мы начнем реализовывать формулировку Владимира Владимировича Путина, Верховного Главнокомандующего, уж найдем сортире, извините, и сортире будем мочить. Мы воюем с террористами. И это надо очень четко понимать. И методы надо использовать и те, которые были в сталинское время. Прекрасно разработанная теория и практика такими выдающимися деятелями, как товарищ Судоплатов. Умели же решать поставленные задачи? Не побоюсь этой фамилии, товарищ.
So this is Solovьев on Kremlin State TV, reflecting after a year of war, why aren't we winning? Why don't we have our empire back? What the heck was Joseph Stalin doing correctly in the 30s, 40s, and 50s that made him one of the most powerful people in the world in charge of the largest empire in the world? And he says, and we must use the methods that were used during Stalin's times, when Stalin killed tens of millions of his own people. He then mentions these two Soviet historical figures, Sodublatov and this other guy, Beria. So I had to look these guys up, and Beria was the longest-lived and most influential of Stalin's secret police chiefs. After Stalin's death in 1953, Beria became first deputy chairman of the Council of Ministers, became part of this troika to rule the Soviet Union after Stalin's death, but he was overthrown in a coup by Khrushchev and Zhukov. Beria was removed from power in 1953. After being arrested, he was tried for treason and other offenses, sentenced to death, and executed in 1953. During his trial and after his death, numerous allegations arose that Beria had been a serial rapist and serial killer. So that's the guy that Solovьев is saying we need to find inspiration from. The other guy, Sudoplatov, whoever this guy was, what's he famous for? Assassinations, purges, assassinations, sabotage, and stealing nuclear secrets. I'm at a loss for words, truly, that this is the level of public discourse on Russian state TV today, that we're not being brutal enough. We need to be more brutal. But this is what the Russian military is. Here's a cartoon that perfectly illustrates the Russian military today. We have prisoners, literal convicts, being forced to fight against their will, as well as conscripts and mobilized men also being forced to fight against their will, being sent into battle without proper equipment, proper training, proper weapons. There was a report from the UK last week that Russian prisoners of war were captured, and they reported that they were forced to go into battle with shovels to fight. And if these Russian men try to retreat, they're going to be shot by their own soldiers. Their own soldiers are doing this because their leadership is the one holding a gun to their back to force these men to advance. So let's check in with the front lines, and the city of Bakhmut continues to hold. I've been saying this in my update videos on this channel for 5 months now. This is truly incredible. Though when we look at the map, it is looking pretty ugly as the Russians continue to crawl forward. And let's get an update from a frontline defender in the city. This is from this morning.
8 березня. Усіх дівчат від чоловіків 93-ї бригади зі святом. Місто Бахмут, місто під контролем Збройних сил України. Все буде Україна, а Путін Гантон.
Putin is a condom. I really enjoy this guy's updates. And Russia has stated that Bakhmut's capture is key to further offensives in Ukraine. And I'm gonna share a secret with you guys here. The reason why the Russians are so obsessed with the city of Bakhmut is because this was their first stop in the Donbass region. They started here, and 30 kilometers is the city of Bakhmut. Why are they so focused on this city? And it's because it's the easiest city they thought that they could take. Given that the large cities of Luhansk and Donetsk are here and here, Bakhmut is in between them with convenient infrastructure and roads, allowing them to resupply their forces to attack this city. The reason why they're not pushing up here in the rural regions of Luhansk or the more disconnected regions near Zaporizhia is this is harder to do. So this is truly pathetic that Russia's best, their number one priority, taking the city of Bakhmut, they've been, outside the city directly for 7 months now, sending wave after wave of attacks, and they still can't take it. And the reason why is President Zelensky's now being honest. After Bakhmut, they could go further. Zelensky talks about his decision not to pull out of the city. I think Ukrainians' military command has more of a say than Zelensky, but because Zelensky's the president, he's the public face of the war. And he's right. If the Russians take the city of Bakhmut, they're going to continue charging across these fields. If they can get outside the cities of Sloviansk and Kramatorsk, they're just going to start bombarding those cities, destroying more homes, killing more people. So the decision is made to hold the line and make a stand in Bakhmut. And Russian losses are still atrocious. This is very costly for the Russian military. It's estimated that Russian losses are 5 times higher than Ukrainians, according to NATO. Likewise, even if Ukraine does pull out of the city and the Russians capture it, Bakhmut's fall would not mean Russia is winning. The Pentagon put out this statement this week. So how are the Russian forces doing on the ground? And you gotta listen to the Russian soldiers themselves. Let me read to you what Dmitry over at War Translated says. As if we are now getting used to almost daily videos from Russian mobilized soldiers, this one is different. The commander of this platoon is not appealing to Putin, but directly stating he is refusing to obey orders. These men were transferred to the DPR for meat assaults and lost a major part of their personnel due to a complete lack of training and reconnaissance. So I'll put this entire video in a pinned comment down below if you want to check it out. But basically they were sent to the DPR, and these are supposed to be Russian military, but they were put under the command of a DPR militia. They didn't like that. And I guess they're from the Belgorod region. And as soon as they got to the area, they were told to do things without any written orders being provided. All of their documents were seized by God knows who, half civilians, half military. Let's see here. Military IDs were seized and still haven't been returned after 5 days. They were then told to go assault this village, and they say the average age of men in their unit is 40 years old. Wow. And they weren't giving proper training, proper reconnaissance, proper support. They were sent in, and half of their soldiers in their platoon are now dead. It's going good for Russia. So with Russian soldiers videotaping and uploading online war crimes, and Russian soldiers videotaping and uploading online open mutiny, surely the Russian media has to be covering this, has to be talking about this. So let's check out what was one of their top stories for their broadcast yesterday.
Некогда Великая Британия, там сегодня стало известно, что в некоторых ресторанах будут подавать белок. Ввиду того, что животных много в парках, почему бы их не есть, имея в виду нехватку питания, но от решения помогать Зеленскому, поставлять оружие, они не отказываются. То есть будут жрать белок, но гаубицы поставят. Ну, чтобы мы не надеялись на протест. Некогда
So according to Russian media reports, there are massive food shortages in the UK, and people in the UK are eating squirrels. For my UK subscribers, if you are eating squirrels now, can you let me know in a comment down below how you season and prepare them? Once the food shortages arrive here in America, I want to have the best squirrels on the block. Russians are insane. Good news for Ukraine, Poland has delivered 10 more Leopard tanks. In total, 14 were promised. 4 were delivered like 2 weeks ago, but the next 10 have arrived and have been fully transferred over. More bad news for Russia, as Wing JDAM smart bombs are now operational in Ukraine. The U.S. Air Force's top officer in Europe says JDAM-ERs are now in Ukrainian hands, putting whole new Russian target sets at risk. So the JDAM is an air-launched precision-guided bomb. It has a wing kit to guide it to its target, and these bombs are about 10 times more powerful than a Gimler's. So those are the HIMARS-launched missiles. Now, unfortunately, the range is still about the same as a Gimler's, 75 kilometers, but this is a very powerful bomb. And I think this video is the first confirmed use by the Ukrainians against the Russians. I can't show the video because I can't show death and destruction, but I'll put it in the pinned comment down below if you want to see how big and powerful a JDAM bomb is. This is also a test video launching JDAMs against these civilian cars if you want to see, once again, what the JDAM bomb looks like. I'll put it in the pinned comment down below. The next thing I want to let you guys know about is the organization Saint Javelin. A couple weeks ago, I ordered one of their coffee mugs from their website, and this coffee mug is of a Ukrainian tractor towing a Russian tank. And because I gave them a shout out here on the channel, they wanted to thank me by sending me some free merch. So thank you so much, Saint Javelin, and I want to share with you guys what I got off their website. The first one is of it's a green hoodie, and it's got the Ukrainian emblem right here. On the back, it has, let's see, what does it say? It says Tractor Battalion, and it has like the Back to the Future logo. They also gave me some cool stickers that I might put on my MacBook, and then I got some t-shirts as well. I thought this was my favorite design for their t-shirts. Let me just show that to you here. If I get behind the shirt, then it'll block the microphone. I also really like this shirt in the color green, and it's of the M270, has the slogan, "Double the Missiles." So the HIMARS is cool, but its forgotten cousin, the M270, also cool as well. So they're a great organization. I'll put this video explaining who they are on the community tab of the channel. But Saint Javelin employs Ukrainians in Ukraine, and they make merchandise that they sell, and the proceeds of sales they donate to Ukraine. So over the last year, they've donated over $2 million. Once again, I'll put this video in the pinned comment down below if you want to check them out. If you want to go on their website, they have patches, posters, bags, socks, flags, mugs, t-shirts, sweatpants, everything you could imagine. So thank you so much to Saint Javelin for the great work you guys do, and I'm happy to give you guys a recommend here on the channel. Final clip I have for you is of a Ukrainian defender making the most of his time digging a trench.
Ой, дівчино, з горіха зерня, що твоє серденько болюче терня, що твоє устонька тиха молитва, а твоє слово гостре, як бритва, чом твої очі гаснутим чаром, що то запалює серце пожаром.
That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.